Cool. Very cool.
Hi.
Hello, New York. Welcome to Radio City Music Hall, and welcome to Pod Save America. I'm Jon Favreau.
What's up, New York City? I'm Brittany Packnett.
You can do it.
This is cool.
You can do it.
I'm Jon Lovett.
I'm Alyssa Mastromonaco.
Shout out to Dan Pfeiffer. We wish he was here. I'm Tommy Vietor.
We have some great friends joining us tonight. Seth Meyers is here. As you just heard, Questlove is here. And the award-winning investigative journalist for the New York Times, Nicole Hannah-Jones, is here. Shall we get to the news? Sure.
I don't want to yet.
We want to take it in a little bit more.
Radio City Music Hall. That's ridiculous.
That's ridiculous.
It is.
So guys, it has now been a year since the President of the United States told the country that he fired his FBI director because of the Russia thing. This then caused Trump's hand-picked Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein, to appoint Special Counsel Robert Mueller to launch an investigation. Okay, yeah, Robert Mueller.
America's hero, Robert Mueller.
Robert Mueller.
Give it up for Bob.
Big applause for Robert Mueller at Radio City Music Hall.
Yeah.
To appoint Robert Mueller to launch an investigation into Donald Trump and his associates for obstruction of justice and conspiracy to defraud the United States. 1 year later, the investigation has resulted in 75 criminal charges against
75.
75 criminal charges against 22 individuals and companies and 5 guilty pleas. On that list of guilty pleas and indictments includes Donald Trump's campaign manager, Donald Trump's deputy campaign manager, Donald Trump's national security advisor, and Donald Trump's foreign policy advisor. Donald Trump's personal lawyer and business associate and all-around wonderful guy, Michael Cohen, is also expected to be indicted soon.
And hopefully soon, Donald Trump.
And hopefully soon, Donald Trump.
Yeah.
The crimes range from bank fraud to money laundering to perjury to a conspiracy to defraud. The bipartisan Senate Intelligence Committee has also concluded that Russia successfully interfered in our election with the purpose of electing Donald Trump. And we know from news reports that the Trump campaign was not only willing to accept that help from Russia, but now from other foreign governments as well, like Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. So, Jon Lovett, my first question is, what kind of a witch hunt is this?
If the witch trials in Salem had the hit rate of a Bob Mueller, we would all remember the story of the Salem witch trials as that of a heroic prosecutor who saved a town from a group of very real and very dangerous witches.
I went through that, Lovett, because I did want to step back because it is easy to lose sight in the daily news deluge of just what this investigation has uncovered so far. Do you find yourself sometimes doing the same thing, wondering just how big of a scope this has been?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. You know, it's both really complicated and really simple. It's really complicated in that there are many different piles of scandal. I think probably one of the hardest jobs inside of the special counsel's investigative office is sort of what pile to put crimes into. You know, there's crimes A. I'd probably at this point it's crimes A to F, then G to L, then M to O, which is always the busiest, and then P to Z. You know, we spent a lot of time breaking down the intricacies of this scandal, but Adam Serwer in The Atlantic made a really important point, which I think is often lost, which is, yes, these are a bunch of different, very big scandals tied together, but ultimately, it is one big story, which is the corruption of the federal government by Donald Trump and his associates. And I think I'm glad we're stepping back because I think we do lose the forest for the trees a little bit, and I think people watching the news lose the forest for the trees a little bit because every day brings a new, look, we're midway through the second season, and now we're meeting the Taxi King. What's he about? What's his motivation? Is the Taxi King going to be someone who's here for a few seasons, or is it like a mid-tier Sopranos villain who shows up and then dies 3 episodes later? We don't know yet. We don't know how important the Taxi King is going to be.
Well, let's talk about that. Tommy, there were 2 big stories about Michael Cohen in the news today. One, as Lovett referenced, his former business partner, known as the Taxi King of New York, some of you may know him, he got himself a 100-year jail sentence, reduced to 0 years, for agreeing to cooperate with New York prosecutors and Robert Mueller. So he must have something fairly valuable to offer. And then we learned today that Michael Cohen received a secret payment of $400,000 to set up a meeting between the Ukrainian president and Donald Trump. We've all worked in the White House. Obviously, that happens all the time. Tommy, why is this a problem for Cohen and possibly for Donald Trump?
Sure. So,
just an understated question.
Gene Friedman, the Taxi King, Michael Cohen's business partner, is in trouble for tax evasion. He's cooperating with government investigators. We don't know if the cooperation is specific to the investigation into Cohen, but it's a decent rule of thumb that if your business partner is cooperating with the government because they're in deep, deep trouble, you're in trouble. Just like it's a decent rule of thumb that when you're the President of the United States and your lawyer/fixer is targeted by Bob Mueller, you're in some trouble. Now, the second piece of this, the second story you mentioned, to me, seems to be a much bigger deal, which is that Michael Cohen took at least $400,000 to arrange a meeting between the president of Ukraine and Donald Trump, which, first of all, that should not be a hard meeting to arrange. You should meet with the president of Ukraine. They're an important country and an important region. You should take that meeting. But clearly that's lobbying. And to lobby for a foreign government, you have to register under a law called the Foreign Agents Registration Act, or FARA. And the fact that he didn't...
You think his paperwork slipped through the cracks?
Yeah. The fact that he didn't means he committed a crime and could get up to 5 years in jail. Now, coincidentally, right after this meeting occurred between the president of Ukraine and President Trump, the Ukrainian anti-corruption agency stopped looking into Paul Manafort, who we all know
I didn't get to that part of the story.
Ran Trump's campaign, was the chairman of his campaign, and is in serious trouble. So what a coincidence in this unending saga filled with coincidences that lead to sketchy Russian people and Michael Cohen and Donald Trump.
You guys, this is like an episode of Scooby-Doo that didn't make it to television. I mean...
And I would have got away with it, too, if it wasn't for that special counsel.
If it wasn't for the fact that I forgot to throw away my burner phones.
I forgot. My favorite part of the story is a BBC story today, and a Ukrainian official is quoted saying that they were shocked by how dirty Cohen is. This is a country where the president, Viktor Yushchenko, was poisoned. He nearly died. He was poisoned with an Agent Orange derivative. So these guys have seen some shit.
Alyssa, I want to go back to what we were talking with Lovett about. A global strategy group poll out today, and this is a Democratic group, they found that 55% of the American people support the investigation, but only 41% believe that it has uncovered any crimes. So this kind of goes back to what we were saying. Like, why do you think that is? Is it too confusing for people to follow? What do you think?
It's too confusing. I mean, look, we're getting ready for the show, and we're quizzing each other on what we know. And so if people who follow the news all the time are double and triple checking that they understand. I mean, look, Leslie Stahl was on TV a couple of days ago saying that Donald Trump said to her, yeah, I say that you're crooked and I say that you're corrupt because then when news is reported, people don't believe it because they think you're out to get me. And so I think that that's if you guys go back to when we were in the White House, imagine the level of detail people would have had if one of our interns had winked at a Russian.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and so it's like, and that's, I just think it's so much for people to comprehend who are primarily focused on putting food on their tables and what it means to their family. Like, this is secondary at best.
Yeah. And they've been told all along that the people reporting that information to them are all liars.
And
So
criminals and
not
fake
only am
and,
I not
right.
going to try to figure out this horribly convoluted thing, I don't believe what you have to say anyway,
Right.
because Donald Trump told me not to believe you. But I don't want to miss this point that Lovett made though, right? Because the theme in this entire administration has been entitlement and privilege run amok. Right? Like, this is what happens when you think the rules do not apply to you. If the media rules don't apply to you, the basic rules of like truth and fact don't apply to you, the electoral rules don't apply to you, you can just steal whatever election you want, the hair rules don't apply to you because you know how I feel about his hair. Like, I mean, this is, you know, white supremacy is a hell of a drug. That's all.
Well, so, Brittany, I was going to ask, like, how do you think Democrats and activists should be talking about all of this? Because there's been this big debate. You know, originally people said voters actually don't care about this. Voters care about their health care and their jobs and injustices and their lives every day, and the Russia thing is very far away. And now people are saying, okay, there's all these crimes have piled up. It's this massive corruption. It, you know, it's global in scope. And are Democrats not talking about it enough? Like, how do you think you connect this with people, to people?
I genuinely think it's just our responsibility to keep telling the truth. Like, the world will only be post-truth if we let it be. And I am determined never, ever, 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 ever to let that happen.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, I mean, this is, to be very honest, I was not the most excited about coming to New York City because we're in Radio City Music Hall, which is really incredible. I was most excited because this is the only city where you could put on a salsa party outside of a racist lawyer's apartment. And I'm like, they took out Eric Schlossberg because people told the truth. And folks were like, he's like, I'm not a racist. They were like, yeah, what about the other 40 videos of things that you said that are completely racist, right? And I mean, this is, like I said, Donald Trump has never faced accountability, right? If he can't pay his bills, he just files bankruptcy. If he can't get a date, he'll grab a woman by the, if he can't win, he'll cheat. And so it is our job to hold him accountable. So keep telling the truth. That's our job.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I mean, I think that we can overthink these polls and what voters want to hear and whatnot. It's like the President of the United States has now been involved in a criminal enterprise. His campaign chairman, his national security advisor, all these people have pled guilty. They're going to jail. Like, we have to tell people. If people don't know about that, we have to tell them about that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's
It does seem as if there's now two major stories that we're dealing with. The first is the investigation of Donald Trump, which we just talked about. And the second is Donald Trump's attempt to shut that investigation down. And that second story has really kicked up in recent days. Trump and his allies have claimed that the FBI and the Obama White House were spying on his 2016 campaign, that they were wiretapping him today, that they were planting evidence, that they were trying to set him up. And this would all be, I know, this would all be laughable, except they have an entire propaganda network pushing this conspiracy, and Trump has now ordered the FBI and the DOJ to meet with House Republicans and reveal top-secret information about the investigation. No Democrats invited, no Senate Republicans invited, because the Senate Republicans have been a little too responsible. Just the craziest of the crazy got the nod.
It's not even
meeting.
the craziest of the crazy. We are now at the place where Trey Gowdy is the responsible
Benghazi
one.
Trey Gowdy.
Benghazi
Let us remember
Trey.
what Trey Gowdy is.
Benghazi Gowdy is the adult in the room to make sure crazy Devin Nunes doesn't go too far.
I mean, John, how much time do we spend pushing back on this side of the story? How much do we worry about it? Because I would rather go out there talking about the actual crimes that were committed, but you see, at least in the mainstream press now, I see an analysis in the New York Times and Axios and other places, and they're like, well, Donald Trump is winning the message war now. And now maybe we ignore it. Maybe I stop debating Kim Strassel on Wall Street.
You should
on Twitter.
definitely stop getting
not
into
do that.
fights on Twitter. I'd like everybody who's here to encourage my friend John to stop arguing with people who are wrong on Twitter. Are they wrong? Yes. Can he solve it? Probably not. Probably not. You know, there's so many different things we have to do at once, and it's really, really hard. I don't know the answer. I don't think anyone knows the answer. Because part of the problem is we are trying to solve a structural problem that has gotten worse over 30 years with words right now in a critical moment before an election. The Republican Party and conservatives have spent 30 years building an incredibly powerful propaganda apparatus. It is dangerous. It is disruptive. It works. Fox News works. The billionaire-funded sites that run from the Federalist to National Review to the Weekly Standard, they work. They work in part because they employ some serious adults who are right-wing and who I disagree with terribly, who provide cover for some of the most despicable and deceptive people in politics. They launder the ideas. They get them into the public. They get them onto CNN. They get them into the New York Times. We can't win that fight before 2018, so I don't know what you do. I agree, though, with Brittany and with Jon that we can't just cede the issue because Republicans have succeeded in muddying the waters. I think it's about, I think the fact that poll shows that most people don't view there as having been proven criminality. You know, we're going to watch a clip later where you see this kind of propaganda at work is a bit of instruction of what we have to do. We need to get back to basics. You know, we've talked about getting back to basics around just saying Donald Trump is corrupt, Donald Trump is dangerous, Donald Trump is chaotic, and here's how it hurts you, right? That 1-2 punch. We also have to get down to basics around the corruption. I think Democrats need to stop being too cute by half and stop trying to be too smart. I'm glad Schiff is fighting this. I'm glad we have smart Democrats kind of fighting on the tactics. We need to have a simple, elegant statement, which is Donald Trump's campaign chair, his national security advisor, have pled guilty or are charged with crimes. This corruption is hurting you. We need to have 4 or 5 key sentences that we say over and over again. Donald Trump's corruption is extended to this branch. Donald Trump's corruption is extended to that branch. And hit that over and over again and stop worrying about the minutia and stop worrying about Devin Nunes, because I don't think we can fix that today. We have to figure out how.
So I just want to give a brief shout out to some minutia because I remember because the hypocrisy.
How dare you? How dare you disagree with me in front of New York?
I love you. You're right. You are right. But the hypocrisy drives me crazy. I remember when we were at the White House, there were a series of national security leaks or pseudo leaks. Like a lot of information about the Bin Laden operation was given out on purpose, but then some things came out that were problematic. There was a really bad leak about an operation in Yemen that actually put at risk some operations. There was a very serious leak about Iran and efforts to stop their nuclear program. And Republicans in the Senate called for a special counsel to investigate the leaks. Right now, the leaks are coming from the Intelligence Committee on the House side. House Republicans, Devin Nunes and these people, are putting out information where they are naming sources that are trying to help their country and help the FBI and the CIA. And it is just astounding. It is astoundingly reckless, and they need to be called out on it. But the referees have just sort of forgotten all that's come before.
I mean, I go through this myself sometimes. It's like, you can either go through all of these conspiracies point by point and try to debunk them, but let's step back and just think about what they're trying to say here. They're trying to say that the Obama administration and the deep state wanted to sabotage Donald Trump's campaign and spy on it. So, first of all, they did a very shitty job of doing that because he won the election.
Also, Favs, before we go any further, why would anyone have done that? Because no one thought Donald Trump was going to win.
No one.
Yeah,
I mean,
we're
sorry.
We're in this mess because James Comey was like, when Hillary wins, I'll get in real trouble if I don't say this now.
Yeah.
Right. So James Comey, who's been leading this entire spying operation on Donald Trump's campaign, he's like, what's the pinnacle of this operation? I know. A week before the election, I'll announce that we've reopened the investigation into Hillary Clinton. That's it. That's how I'll get him. I mean, this is fucking absurd.
John, you're falling for it. They're playing chess. You're playing checkers.
I want one of them to tell me the motivations behind this whole thing here.
Crazy.
It doesn't make any sense.
I mean, I think this is all about distraction because, some days I don't know if I should be offended that they are spending this much time talking about, these investigations and making up Spygate and all of these things.
Right.
or if I should be deeply thankful that they don't have time to do more governing because the governing they do sucks.
Yeah, that's right.
Like, I vacillate between those two emotions all the time, and I find myself not willing to go deep on this conversation because while this conversation is happening, which is important, also people's lives are being ruined.
Right.
Like families are being separated at the border.
Yeah.
Trans kids are being told that they're not people. Women are being told that you can regulate our uteruses more than you can regulate guns. Like all of this stuff
It's
is
true.
happening.
Yeah.
And I'm thankful that you all are paying attention to the details because like I ain't got time to.
I mostly rely on Jon and Tommy for the details.
I listen to Pod Save the People for the news crew segment where I learn all the other very important things that aren't this.
Shout out to Pod Save the People.
Positive
Subscribe.
people.
Subscribe.